Arne Slot is in the hot seat at Liverpool. His future is in serious doubt. Atlético Madrid are plotting a shock move for Robert Lewandowski. Marseille have made an official bid to Real Madrid for Endrick, and PSG are entering the market eyeing a Newcastle star. We're covering all that and more in today's video. Guys, let's try and hit 350 thumbs up on this one. Your support helps us make even better content for you. Let's get right into the latest transfer gossip. Robert Lewandowski's future at Barcelona is the big talking point again. Reports from Spanish and Polish media, Sport included, say the club is already gearing up for the summer when his contract is up and everything is pointing towards him leaving. You can see Hansi Flick is slowly easing Lewandowski out of the starting 11, giving Ferran Torres the nod more often. It looks like a soft but very deliberate transition. For his part, the Polish striker is making it clear he wants to stay for at least one more year, even on a lower wage and in a smaller role. But from what sources in Spain are saying, Barcelona just aren't willing to give him a new deal, especially after he picked up a second injury this season. So where does he go from here? There are a few options on the table. Over the last few months, he's been linked heavily with Saudi Arabia and the MLS, but it's looking more and more likely he'll stay in La Liga. The name being mentioned is Atlético Madrid, and that makes a lot of sense, really. Diego Simeone has always had a knack for getting the best out of veteran forwards, and they might have a spot opening up if Alexander Sørloth moves on. It's funny because a deal like this is classic Atlético. They've signed older players from Barcelona before and made it work. Getting Lewandowski on a free in 2026 would be an absolute steal for them. AC Milan are in the mix too, but insiders reckon the Atlético move is the more likely one. Louis himself wants to stay in Europe. He's in no hurry to head to the Middle East or the States, despite the offers out there. Remember, his season has been a mixed bag. He's still scoring goals, but injuries have really hampered his consistency. Meanwhile, the club is busy looking for a new number 9, weighing up their options both on the pitch and on the balance sheet. And here's the bottom line: Barcelona don't plan to renew his contract. That basically opens the door for his exit. And by all accounts, Lewandowski is ready to wait and see what the board decides. So as it stands, the situation is this: Barcelona will say adios next summer. The Pole becomes a free agent with Atlético and Milan as the frontrunners to sign him. Liverpool are going through one of their toughest spells in a long time. Arne Slot is in the hot seat after his side lost to Manchester United at Anfield for the first time in over 9 years. That result makes it 4 defeats in a row for Liverpool, a run the club hasn't seen for 11 years. And now the big question is, how safe is the manager's job? After the game, Slot tried to make sense of it all. His argument is basic: Liverpool are creating plenty of chances but just aren't finishing them. The boss insisted the team shouldn't have lost a game where they had so many clear-cut opportunities. He also pointed to the usual mistakes from set pieces and defensive frailties that cost them goals again. Slot put it bluntly: as a manager, you're always dealing with problems. When you start and have to win games, when you go to a bigger club, when you're the one following Jurgen Klopp and people say, that's the biggest problem you'll ever face. Now we've lost 4 on the bounce, and that's a problem too. The life of a football manager is one constant challenge. But are we losing confidence? I don't see it yet, because in every game we've lost, we've created an incredible number of chances in the second half. Even with him trying to stay positive, the situation is worrying. 4 losses on the trot to Crystal Palace, Galatasaray, Chelsea, and now United is no fluke. Guys, let's take a quick pause so you can hit the like or dislike button on this video. Any feedback is massive. Thanks for the activity, it really helps the channel out. At Anfield, Liverpool looked more threatening, but the result was another catastrophe. Fans and experts can see what's plain as day. The team hasn't just lost its nerve, it's lost the balance that was its trademark under Klopp. The attack is under a special spotlight. On paper, Liverpool have what might be the most impressive front line in the world, but right now it's just a fancy project with nothing to show for it. Alexander Isak, signed for a record £125 million from Newcastle, still hasn't scored in the Premier League. He's clearly lacking sharpness, and his fitness isn't great, which is hardly a surprise after the conflict and strike before he left Newcastle. But you can see it's mental too. The striker looks short on confidence, almost lost in the new system. Slot keeps saying his team is playing better than the opposition, but the cold, hard stats tell a different story. Liverpool have lost 4 straight games for the first time since 2013. This isn't just a blip anymore, it's a massive alarm bell. Look, criticism needs to be fair, but you can't just ignore what's happening. You can't lose to United at Anfield. You can't lose 4 in a row and act like it's no big deal. And the main thing is, this is Slot's squad now. It's his project, his calls, his responsibility. Liverpool have the chances, they have the attack, but they don't have the results. Too many players are well off the levels they were hitting in past seasons. And if things don't turn around soon, the pressure on Arne Slot is only going to build. Because at Anfield, nobody's going to stand for losing streaks and lame excuses. Paris Saint-Germain have renewed their pursuit of reinforcements, and their attention has turned to one of Newcastle United's most influential players, Sandro Tonali. As reported by the Spanish publication Fichajes, the League One champions are preparing a bid of 60 million euros for the 25-year-old midfielder. Tonali moved from AC Milan to England and rapidly established himself as an indispensable figure at the heart of Eddie Howe's side. His tactical intelligence and capacity to dictate the flow of play have made him central to Newcastle's identity. From the club's perspective, Tonali represents a strategic asset, and his potential departure would constitute a severe setback to their long-term ambitions. The Magpies are intent on consolidating their position in the Champions League and competing consistently for honors. This requires retaining leading figures and constructing a project that can operate at the game's highest tier. Thus, any exit for Tonali would not be perceived merely as the loss of a footballer, but as a regression in the club's overall trajectory. Fichajes emphasized that Newcastle are under no financial compulsion to sell. The club is among the wealthiest globally and possess the means to retain key players unless the individuals themselves insist on departure. Consequently, the decision may ultimately rest upon Tonali's own inclinations. At present, the midfielder is performing at an exceptional level. His range of skills, dropping deep to initiate play, linking wide in short exchanges, and delivering long diagonals, allow him to manage the tempo with authority. He accelerates the game when opponents falter and slows it under duress, qualities that mark him as an uncommon asset for clubs such as PSG. For the French champions, a transfer of this nature would provide significant reinforcement in midfield, adding a player capable both of halting opposition moves and generating attacking opportunities. Nevertheless, despite PSG's evident interest, it remains uncertain whether a formal proposal will be presented in the immediate future. Newcastle must persuade Tonali that his ambitions of competing for titles and achieving European success can be fulfilled at St. James's Park. Should they fail to do so, PSG's 60 million euros could present a tangible risk to Eddie Howe's project. At this stage, one fact is beyond doubt: PSG's interest is genuine, and Fichajes confirm their readiness to invest heavily. Yet the decisive factor will be the players' will and the persuasiveness of Newcastle's vision. Casemiro has reached a real crossroads, a moment where his next decision will define the end of his career. According to Football Insider, Manchester United are talking to the Brazilian about a new contract, but it's not straightforward at all. On one side, the club wants to keep the midfielder, but on their terms, which means a pay cut. For United, this is a calculated move. Casemiro's massive salary has been a headache for the board for a while now, as they need to get their finances in order. On the other side, the player himself has some serious leverage. The interest from Saudi Arabia hasn't gone away, and they're ready to offer not just a huge contract, but also make him the star of their project. We're talking clubs like Cristiano Ronaldo's Al Nassr, which is already packed with big names. Let's not forget, this could have all gone down differently last summer. The talk of him heading to Saudi Arabia was everywhere, but the deal collapsed. Why? Simple. Manchester United couldn't find a proper replacement, having failed in their bid to sign Carlos Baleba. So the club put their foot down and made Casemiro stay for another season at Old Trafford. But now the cards are back in his hands. United have an option to extend his deal to 2026, but they're not going to trigger it. Instead, they'll put a new contract on the table, but only if he agrees to take a hit on his wages. It's all up to Casemiro. What's interesting is that it's not just Saudi Arabia. Clubs in Brazil are also keen to bring him home. This makes the whole thing even more fascinating. He's got a few paths: stay in Europe, chase the big money in the Middle East, or go back to Brazil, where he'll be welcomed by clubs and fans alike. So, the next few weeks will be massive for his career. Manchester United want to keep him, but on a lower salary. Saudi Arabia has the cash to tempt him, and Brazil has that emotional connection and the chance to end his career at home. At this point, it could swing any way, and only Casemiro knows what matters most to him as he nears the finish line. Look, while Casemiro's weighing up 3 tough choices, yours is way easier. I'm talking about that subscribe button, by the way. Hitting it is like signing a brilliant contract with 0 financial risk. Just pure upside for you and for the channel. Get it done! Endrick, the kid everyone was calling Brazil's next generational talent, is now in a position nobody saw coming. His big move from Palmeiras to Real Madrid was supposed to be a fairy tale, but it's turning into a bit of a nightmare. The young striker hasn't played a single minute in La Liga or the Champions League this season, and breaking into Real's attack under Xabi Alonso has become an impossible task. He already had a frustrating time under Carlo Ancelotti, and it's basically happening all over again. Now, according to L'Equipe, Marseille are back in for Endrick. The French side were keen in the summer, but the deal fell through. It seems Roberto De Zerbi wants to bolster his attack and is ready to go back in for the Brazilian this January. They're talking about different deals, either a loan or a full transfer. And here's the key thing, Endrick himself is said to be open to the idea. The young lad knows that without game time, his chances of getting into the Brazil squad for the 2026 World Cup are fading fast, especially with the crazy level of competition for a spot up front. L'Equipe makes it clear that Endrick's getting more and more frustrated, so wanting a move away makes perfect sense. For him, Marseille could be more than just a lifeline. It could be the chance to actually kickstart his European career. But it's not just about the French team. Over in Italy, Juventus are watching things closely. They've been interested before and are still one of the main clubs in the running. Other teams might get involved too. Reports say Paris Saint-Germain are also looking at the young forward, and West Ham have even put in a specific request for a January loan. Guys, don't forget to leave your reaction on this video. It's a huge help for the channel. Hit the thumbs up or down right now and drop a comment. We'd really appreciate it. So we've got a fascinating race on our hands. You have Marseille, where De Zerbi is ready to give him a role to shine. Then you have Juve and PSG, who know how to sell big projects to young players. And then West Ham have thrown their hat in the ring, hoping a loan deal could be a great way to test him in the Premier League. The only real question is what Real Madrid are going to do. So far, the club is staying quiet, but if nothing changes, it'll get harder and harder to justify keeping a player who isn't playing. For Endrick, January could finally be his chance to get his European career properly started.